Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is integrating open source software. Our guest speaker today is Shashank Tamhani, Senior Technical Manager, Universal Test Solutions. Shashank is a solution architect and delivery professional with 20 years of experience in technical leadership roles in product development and management. His expertise include OS internals, system programming, automation, software project management, technical pre-sales, and software estimation. He likes to work on new and emerging technology areas. He is currently working as Senior Technical Manager at Universal Test Solutions, where he leads the product development team on an enterprise automation product. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Shashank.
Thank you. Can you make me the presenter? Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking out the time for attending this session. On open source integration. Open source has evolved throughout the past decade, and it has now matured and has increasingly gained acceptance.
I'm sorry to
and adoptions in the last.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Shashank. Can we put the presentation in slideshow mode?
Okay, that's fine. It is in slideshow mode. Okay. Yeah. Is it fine now? Yeah. Can you see the screen now?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the agenda for today is understanding what is open source and what are the differences between open source and free software, what are the advantages of open source, and what are the different open source licenses, and how can we understand the different open source licenses, and what are the open source software selection criteria, if any. So what is open source software? Software released under OSI certified license is considered to be as open source. So what is OSI? OSI is open source software initiative, which is an organization which certifies the open source software projects around the IT industry. So open source, there is a lot of confusion basically between open source software and free software. So I would take also the I would try to make you understand what is the difference between the open source software and free software. Can you see my slides? Hello?
Yeah, we can see your slides.
Okay, and yeah. So
Can you put the presentation on slideshow mode, please?
I actually have put it up.
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. So yeah. So open source software means basically software which is released under the licenses certified by Open Source Software Initiative, which is an organization which certifies the different open source licenses and the projects which can use those licenses for granting access to their products, and any restrictions they want can be specified in the licenses itself. So this is an organization, and you can check up opensource.org. Open source basically encourages free distribution of software and access to source code. So the product source code is shared, and it encourages free distribution of software as well. And people have permission to modify the source code and distribute the combined works. So what is the meaning of basically modify source code and distribute the combined works? So that means, let's move to the next slide. That means if, say, for example, a person A develops an open source component, and he wants to combine, he wants to modify his component and add some couple of more components, open source components, and his proprietary source code also, and he would like to sell this to everybody, which is our primary intention. And so you can have licenses with the A can have a license which makes sure that B can have a license which can make sure that there is no royalty paid back to A, though he is using A's open source component, which is the source code of A is available around on the web, but B may choose not to put a source code with this particular license, and yet he may be able to sell his product and make money out of it. So open source software encourages free distribution, which is one of the conditions of licenses. So there are open source initiative basically has around 10 points which need to which 10 directives which every open source software needs to comply with. The major points which would impact its usage are basically, as I explained in the earlier slide, that is free distribution. You can have access to search source code, and permission to modify a source code and distribute combined works. So that is, you can combine multiple components and your proprietary code and sell the new component. Let's move to the next slide. So what are the differences between open source software and free software? So everybody who has used open source software in his and downloaded open source software, and we basically don't care about the licenses which are associated with open source software. We think that open source software is free software and can be downloaded. So without any compliance issues, and there would be no issues if you use source code from some other project and just copy and paste, and there will be no issue for compliance, etc. But this is a wrong notion. There's a wrong assumption, and we need to understand what are the subtle differences between open source software and free software.
Shashank, are you facing any problem with the slideshow mode?
No, I think it's appearing right now, correct?
Because it goes off to the normal mode. It goes off from the slideshow mode at times.
Has it gone down?
No,
Gone
now
off?
it's in the slideshow mode, but we want the presentation to be in slideshow mode because it's getting recorded.
Yeah, sure. Initially, I was having problems. Right now, I don't think
You just need to move, use your arrow keys to move the slides.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
So there are subtle differences between open source software and free software, and so the free software is basically the free software also follows some directives and some points which are specified by the Free Software Foundation, which exists at the fsf.org. So free software has also got a license that guarantees 4 freedoms basically. I want to just specify the differences between open source software and free software. So free software has a license that guarantees 4 freedoms. The first freedom is freedom to run the program for any purpose. Next freedom is freedom to study how the program works and change it as you wish. And freedom 2 is freedom to redistribute copies. And the last one is freedom to distribute copies of your modified versions to others. So as it is, like, it looks like open source software and free software are the same, but there is a difference. So though open source software and free software both have the initial 4 freedoms, guaranteed the initial 4 freedoms, yet open source software has additional restrictions on top of what Free Software Foundation license guarantees. So these restrict the usage of open source software by any individual. So as a thumb rule, basically open source software, the openness of open source software is lesser than free software. That is because it has got restrictions on top of what exists in free software. It has got licenses, which we will cover in the next slides. Basically, the restrictions are imposed on top of the 4 freedoms, that is run, copy, distribute, and modify. I have given 2 examples here which we can see. We have used in our development projects, basically we have used JSON. So the first example is that JSON is open source, but it is not free, as it has got a restriction. The software shall be used for good and not evil. Yes, though it may sound funny, but yet this is a restriction which is actually existing in the JSON license. So as it has got a restriction, it it is not free. It is not free, and it adheres to an open source license. The next example is GPL. GPL is free because it has got no restrictions. So here is a ready reckoner to consider any software and categorize it as open source software or a free software. So if that software has 4 freedoms, guarantees 4 freedoms, run, copy, modify, and distribute, yes. And if it has no additional restrictions, it is free software. If the software guarantees it does not guarantee the 4 freedoms and has additional restrictions, it is called open source software. If the software guarantees 4 freedoms and has additional restrictions,
Shashank,
it is,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Shashank, the slides are not changing.
I think there is some issue. Can you see that now? Is it okay now? No? One minute. It is up, actually.
To the one that says open source software, free software differences, right?
Yeah, opens the slide 2 by 2.
2 by 2, right? Exactly. Yeah, we have this site.
Okay. Okay.
You can also check in the audience view section. Whenever you change a slide,
yeah,
you can, yeah.
Frankly, the issue is when I move to the next slide, I mean, as I'm in the slideshow mode, okay, so I can just see the audience view section and then move on?
Exactly. You can just see the audience view section whenever you change the slide. It will give you an idea
Okay.
which slide your, which you know, slide is up on the webinar.
Okay.
Right? Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. Advantages of open source. Sorry, just let me go back to the earlier slide. Yeah, so let's move to the next slide now, and with the advantages of open source software. Open source is business friendly, unlike free software. It applies legal protection to source code. It also prevents others from modifying it, repackaging it, and restricting others from using it again. So basically, we can categorize this as plagiarization, plagiarism, and we would not want to anybody to modify, repackage it, and restrict others, and also consider it their own work. So it would be a conflict, and it also guarantees lower cost of innovation. Open source does not have any licensing fees, and there is also no vendor lock-in. So basically, vendor lock-in is like we can just download the open source software from the web, and we don't need to pay any licensing fees because there is no licensing fees associated with open source software. So advantages of open source, we are moving to the second slide for advantages, for checking out the advantages of open source software. Open source open source software. Using open source software, we can have a faster time to market. We can have better documented source code, and it also promotes software reliability and better quality by supporting independent peer review. Basically, open source software is worked on by several individuals who have, and it's a community, and who have their own daily jobs, and they do this in their spare time, or and as it is open for inspection, anybody can see that it is adhering to code reviews and peer code reviews. So it is, and it is quite reliable and stable. So we move on to the next slide, which is open source licenses. So what is a license? A license is an agreement that makes software available to all users and also adheres to the terms of use as stated by the open source initiative, which is www.opensource.org. The open source license details how an individual can use the compiled form of the open source software and also the source code of the software. It specifies if you can modify the source code, release it commercially, if you can use the software commercially, and if you can hold the original developers liable to damages for developing or the software, and if the software has some by any chance spoiled your product or made some created some issues in your product, so you can hold, if you can hold the original developers to damages, and if you need to release your source code as well. So this can be specified in the open source licenses. So we move on to the permissive licenses in open source. There are the licenses which are present in open source. We can categorize them into permissive licenses and weakly permissive licenses. So what do we call as permissive licenses? Licenses which are basically corporate friendly. Any organization, any individual can modify the source code and release it, and modify the source code and release it, and also the modified source code will not be, he is not liable to release the modified source code. So these licenses help you to sell your software which uses open source. It also gives credit to the original authors. Moving to the next slide. So here we can see there are the different kind of licenses which support which are corporate friendly and which help us in selling commercial software. Are basically the licenses as shown on the screen. The MIT license, the Apache license, Apache 2 license, the Microsoft public license, the Creative Commons CC license. So the different points which help for any software developer, any organization or an individual in including this open source software, open source code, and implementing a solution around it is that these 4 licenses support commercial use. You can modify their software, any open source software which has got this which has this license, and you can modify the software, you can sell it, and you can also distribute the software, but you cannot hold liable the original developers of the software. The source code, if you are using the source code, you cannot hold liable the original developers. So it entirely depends upon your own software. And the last one is you must include the original copyright which was given along with the open source license. So that is the only basic thing which these licenses need. That is, you can have commercial use, you can distribute your modified code, but you must include their copyright. Moving to the second slide in this section, for understanding open source licenses. The next set of licenses which support commercial software development is the BSD2, BSD3, and the Creative Commons CCSA license. These licenses also support commercial use. You can modify the software, distribute the software, but you cannot hold liable the original developers. You must include the copyright license, the copyright of the original software. That has to be included in the modified source. Let us see what are the weakly permissive licenses. These are the licenses which are not that commercial friendly, and if you want to develop any your own software, if you want to include the open source code, you would need to carefully evaluate these licenses, because these are these are restrictive licenses, and where commercial use is restricted. And the major point over here is you need to disclose your own source code finally. So that is why I classified this as a weakly permissive licenses. So what are the weakly permissive licenses? The GNU GPL2, GPL3, the IBM public license, the Microsoft reciprocal license, MSRL. These are all restrictive licenses. In GPL2 and GPL3, the commercial use is limited, and you can modify the source code. You can include your own modifications, but you cannot sell it. The the IBM license also, and the MSRL license is you can have commercial use, but it has all of these licenses. You must disclose your source code. So after you have modified your, after you have developed your product using this open source software, open source code, you must disclose your source code and put it for everybody to download and inspect. Which is why we can say that these are not very commercial friendly licenses. So what are the different open source software selection criteria? How can we select open source components for our own products? So if we need to evaluate the license. We need to check if the open source software has had any recent activity. How often has it been released? Are any bugs fixed frequently? We need to check the reputation and stability of the open source software as well. If it has a large user community, if the one rule of thumb can be in the number of downloads happening for that open source component. These are all criteria which we can use for evaluating open source software. So we can see if we can see the licenses, we can if it is commercial friendly or not. We can check the recent activity. If the software has not been updated for say more than a year, probably there is it has got no new features and the bugs are still there. How often has it been released, and the reputation of the software and the stability of the software through the different releases, and then the forums. So these are criteria which help us to evaluate. So where to look for open source software? Here are some of the popular open source code hosting and sharing services on the web. Most of these support version control, bug tracking, mailing lists, etc. There is github.com, which is the topmost open source software sharing website, collaborating. I wouldn't say sharing. It is an open source software collaborating website. Sourceforge.net was initially present, and now GitHub has taken over as the topmost used website for hosting open source software. There is launchpad.net. We have bitbucket.org also. Then we have codeplex.com. code.google.com is there, and freecode.com. This is where you can go and see the different open source softwares hosted by these websites, and you can then evaluate them. So now let's come to the next slide, and we will now look at what are the integration challenges for integrating open source with our product. So while integrating source code with your product, there may be a learning curve in difficulty to understand the source code and updating it as per your needs. This is because the source code is written by a separate set of people, and it's difficult to understand the source code. It's difficult to understand the source code, and it would have a learning curve. So I'm having some kind of issues in moving to the next slide. So you may be seeing the earlier slides again. So the next integration challenge which we face is during build and configuration. Build and configuration errors may spring up during setup when you download and try to build and configure the open source software. And lastly, there may be no support while implementing proof of concept scenarios to check if the software fits the requirements. So another challenge is with very less documentation around, evaluation stage needs substantial time. So for evaluating any open source software, you need a lot of time for evaluating it, because when these open source softwares are evolving softwares, and with every add a feature, probably the documentation is not updated, and you need to check up the wiki, the forums for any the usage of features. So this all needs substantial time. So during the setup stage, finding answers to your queries may take time, because you may need to post your questions in forums and in mailing lists. You may need to ask your questions and then get your answers. So what are the risks for using open source? If careful attention is not paid to the license and you modify source code or the source code, or sell the source code, modified source code, the licensor can claim damages and end your product's delivery sale, and you may also lose control of your proprietary source code. That is why it is very essential to select a proper license. It is very essential to select a commercial friendly license. Otherwise, in the end, we may need to reveal our source code, and we lose control. So I'll give some examples. I'll show some examples where this has gone wrong, and then you may be able to understand this better. All instances of open source software used in an organization must be tracked to avoid the pitfalls of misuse with respect to licenses. So right now we download software, we download open source software. I've seen people just copying, pasting source code from open source and using it in the product. This should not be encouraged, because whenever we use open source or source code, Either the licenses should be included, and otherwise there may be license issues later on, and the organization using the software for the product may be held, there may be lawsuits against it. Then integration of multiple open source code impacts multiple licenses and needs to be carefully checked for compliance. So we may need to use multiple source code, multiple open source code from different projects, and basically these open source projects may be having different licenses, GPL, MIT, and Microsoft Creative Commons, whatever. But whatever licenses there are, we need to check their combined licenses and see if it impacts our product, and if we need to release the software, if we need to release our modified source, if there is any need or not. It has to be carefully analyzed. So these risks are there. So considering all risks and the issues of open source, we yet may make money from open source. I wanted to touch upon this point because there is a lot of incentive in the sense we can make money from open source. People are doing this, and first thing is like dual licensing. What organizations do is create a free version of the software and with open source and put it on open source hosting website, and we have another paid version with additional features. There are a lot of examples. I've taken a few, like for example MySQL. MySQL has a community version which is governed under the GPL license. You can download the source, you can download the binaries, anything. But they have got a paid version, the enterprise version, with different features, with enterprise availability, backup, scalability, etc. These are all additional features which are there in the commercial version, in the enterprise version. So besides dual licensing, that is making a free software, free version available and another paid version available. Another way to make money from open source is from support. With packaging, technical support, training, and consulting services. So with packaging, I mean that there may be multiple source code, open source software available. You can package them together, because open source software normally do not have good installers, and you may combine multiple software and have a package them correctly, nicely, and configure them while installing them. So there are organizations doing this packaging services for open source software and basically earning money. And then there may be technical support, which is another activity which can be done, because technical support, in the sense open source software is normally, you may not get help when you need it. There is no call-based support, so you can have services for your organization with call-based support or any kind of support, email-based support around any open source software, and you may develop skills in any particular open source software, and then develop a technical support team and develop a commercial a business around it. And similarly for training and consulting. So organizations which have done this are Nthought, www.nthought.com. Nthought has basically packaged pre-configured Python, which is an open source package. It has added tools. It provides support knowledge base, and also supports email, provides email support. Red Hat, as you know, provides install and upgrade mechanisms. It delivers latest versions, security and bug fixes, and with 10 years of support. This all comes under their premium services. So they have developed, though these are all open source softwares like Linux, Red Hat, and Python, yet services have been built around it, so with premium features. So community visibility is the third one, where one can showcase one's abilities after gaining skills, build expert knowledge of open source projects, and with one's involvement, you can help build your own reputation and make one available, become valuable to prospective employers. So I want to point out the different around 3 lawsuits which have taken place in the industry because licenses were not evaluated correctly or people made mistakes, and as a result there were lawsuits against them. So the first case is the Free Software Foundation, that is FSF.org versus Cisco. The Free Software Foundation accused Cisco of violating the terms of the GPL license when in one of its products it used modified Linux. So as you know, Linux is under in GPL license, and the Free Software Foundation accused them of basically violating the GPL license, and eventually Cisco had to release the source code for one of its products, which cost the company several $million. Another open source lawsuit was against the Free Software Foundation versus Verizon, wherein the Free Software Foundation accused Verizon of violating the terms of the GPL license for its BusyBox product. The lawsuit was finally settled with the release of the BusyBox source and the payment of a huge sum of money to the Free Software Foundation. Another recent case or lawsuit is the Jacobson versus Katza. Katza's firm was accused of copying and distributing a tool released under open source which used artistic license by Jacobson. According to Katza, a software contractor omitted the copyright notice in the source code, which later became the basis of the lawsuit. So if you use any open source component, it is very essential that you include the original copyright notice. You do not remove the copyright notices, and even if you modify the source code, you note down the changes, track the changes, and keep it with you, and don't remove the notices and the copyrights. That is helpful and for preventing any lawsuit. So how can we use open source code then? So search for open source code which fits your needs. Read carefully and analyze the license accompanying it, and probably get a lawyer run through it. Add, improve the source code as per your needs. Adhere to the license constraints. Do not remove any copyright notices. So how can we get involved with open source? Based on your interest in a particular project, you can join forums. You can select basically any open source software project, and then you can join its forums. You can join the mailing lists in the software project which are associated with it. You can download the open source software and test the builds, the weekly, whatever daily builds, whenever they are released. You can report the bugs which you have found, and that is a way to basically get involved and try to analyze and recreate the fix the reported bugs, because you have the source code. You can reproduce the bugs and fix them, and probably mention that in the forum. And also you can try and answer queries which are raised in the forums. That is a way to get involved with open source. That is the end of this presentation, and yeah, I would be glad if you had any to answer any questions if you have them. So I have a question, how to get source code for MySQL? Well, you can get the source code for MySQL from the MySQL website. That is www.mysql, I think it's org. Yeah, I'm going through the questions, so I'll just take each question one by one. So what is the difference between open source and free software? I hope everybody has been able to understand the difference. Free software guarantees 4 freedoms, and open source has restrictions on top of the 4 freedoms. That is, I have presented that in the one of my slides. Another question asked by Suresh is how can we, using an open source software, promote better documented and reviewed code? Can you please explain this? Yes, I would say that using open source software promotes better documented reviewed code, because this code is being developed by several users around the world, multiple users, and primarily this code is open for inspection, which is not there in proprietary code. So when you say, for example, use Microsoft Word, you don't know what kind of code has been written in Microsoft Word, right? If it is documented properly, what kind of test cycles has it gone through? What are the different bugs? How have the developers implemented any particular functionality? But in open source, you can have all this. You can have the bugs which are there in the system. You can have you can see the source code and check for yourself if it is documented properly. So yes, open source software promotes better documentation. And reviewed code. So another question is, have we rights to modify the source code of free software? Well, we have the rights to modify the source code of free software, and that is one of the rights guaranteed by the Free Software Foundation. Yes, we have. This question was asked by Kupu. Any examples of risks materialized in the past? Yes, I've taken a couple of examples. Okay, a lawsuit against Verizon, against Cisco, another Jacobson versus Katzer, and there are several other lawsuits also where licenses have been violated, and people have forgotten to include the license, or people have not adhered to the specific license. This has been asked by Satish. Another question is, like commercial softwares, do open source softwares carry any trademark and license in general? This has been asked by Satish. Yes, the accompanying license which is present, which any open source software has, there is an accompanying license and a copyright notice. This details the kind of trademark or copyrights associated with the specific license. And the licenses governed also have specify more details on it. So how can those specific trademark, if any violations occur, or if you modify a source code, how to do you need to fully do you need to put up your source code on the, as open source again? This is mentioned in details in the license. That is why while evaluating a license, it is necessary that a lawyer should go through the evaluation of any open source license because of its complexity. Another question is from Gaurav. What do you mean by licenses for open source software? Licenses just mean agreements, or is there a fee for those licenses? There is no fee for those licenses. The open source licenses, there is no fee, but there are people, you can say there are licenses with specific points. So a license can have, say, for around 10 to 15 points, and it can detail some restrictions. Licenses is a way to look at this is license details the restrictions around the usage of any open source software. So it may say that you cannot you cannot modify the source code. So if you modify the source code, then you will have to put up the source code as open source. This is one restriction. This is it can be in the license, or there can be any such different kind of license restrictions. Licenses, yes, licenses mean agreements, and if you are downloading source code or the software, or the compiled version or the source code, you are saying that you are adhering to the license. So if you modify it and put it in your product, you need to adhere to the license. Otherwise, you are violating the particular license. This was asked by Gaurav. So Abhishek asks, what will happen if someone not provides the appropriate license for the open source software, GPL, Apache, etc. So what will happen if someone does not provide the appropriate license? So if you have, say for example, used an open source software which has open GPL or Apache license, and you've removed the copyright notices, you have removed the licenses, then you basically violated the license. Then I would not say Apache probably, but at least GPL, I think there may be serious issues around if you remove the licenses, the copyright notices, and even in Apache also, if you remove, because copyright notices have to be included in the modified software as well. So there are ways to find out if the licenses are there, and people may just have lawsuits on your organization and say that the notices have not been included, and then this has to be proved in a court of law, saying that you have included the licenses. So Satish asks, Satish Prabhakar, I think, asks, can you please cite examples from your past where you had to protect the IP while contributing in open source? Well, I have used open source. I have not contributed to open source projects as an, I've not uploaded my own source code for open source projects. But yes, for protecting the IP, yeah, so you can protect the IP by including the copyrights, and examples I've taken, I've listed them in my presentation, and these are basically actual lawsuits which have happened, and a lot of money has changed hands or because of the violations. So another question is Samarai from Samarai. So the question is Apache open office an open source or free software? So it is, if it is Apache, I think it should be Apache 2 license or some, but I'm not sure, but it should be a license, and license, accompanying license with the open office, Apache open office, should detail what kind of license is being used for this, and it is obviously not free software. It is open source. But the accompanying license will give more details about it. So you need to look at you need to read the license and check what kind of license it is, and go to open source org, and then maybe you can have a look at the actual license. So all these licenses are present on www.opensource.org. So another question from Thamrai is, normally if I download any open source, how to get source code for that? We can have source code for any particular project from, there are the source code repository, that is the site hosting the open source software has links which help you to download the source code, and you can download the source code and then read and analyze the source code. Gajula has a question, how to contribute to open source projects as a developer. It is, you can develop, I've given, there was a slide in where you can contribute to open source projects. I'll just mention the salient points again. You can get involved with open source projects by primarily, first you need to select an open source project amongst the myriad of projects available. And this as per your interest. Once you have selected the open source project, then you need to you get involved by say for example downloading builds, evaluating the builds, evaluating the bugs associated. If there are any bugs, you need to put them on the forums associated with that software, the community associated with the software. So every open source software has its associated community which is present on the open source web hosting website itself. So this this can help you in better getting involved. And finally, once you are accepted, you may even add features to that software, and people will recognize your metal, and you may be able to implement features for open source of that particular software. So Rajendra has a question. He says, do you agree open source MySQL is not secure? So I would not go into that, but I think with the open source MySQL, people they have got enterprise versions also, and this is you can have more stability by analyzing the source, and it depends on case-to-case basis what kind of problems have occurred due to this use of open source MySQL, the community edition. We can evaluate that and then check if it has if it is actually secure or not. But I think people are using it, and there are releases planned, and they have incorporated fixes around issues, bugs, and for security bugs. So obviously, I think the issues must have been incorporated and bugs fixed. So Sayak Roy asks, what are the possible pitfalls that an organization might face if they use open source tools for application lifecycle management? Uh, there are the open source, just by using an open source tool for any purpose, for say for example ALM, application lifecycle management, you will not face any issue, any pitfall. But if you violate the license which are accompanying that open source tool by modifying the software, by doing something, if you have not released, by not releasing the source code, if it says so, or something else, whatever is specified by the software license. So there may be lawsuits against that. So those are the lawsuits. Those are the pitfalls around the usage. As long as we do not violate the licenses, there is no issue. What is GPL with link exception, asks Satish, but I do not have this. I don't have an idea about this. I can check up this and let you know. Okay, is there any forums or websites for asking questions or posting our problems? Yes, there are a lot of questions which help us, basically websites which help us to ask questions. First and primary is Stack Overflow. If you are related to development, if you want to ask any development questions, there is a big community in Stack Overflow. That is www.stackoverflow.org. If you are not there on Stack, you register your account and get involved. So basically, there are a lot of questions around open source itself, and your questions will be answered in a very proper way. Another related website which helps in the answering questions is basically Stack Exchange, which is a related website. So Rajendra asks, will you advise to use open source DB in enterprise? If so, what's your suggestion? It depends upon the organization, and I've seen people using open source database. If they do not want to go with the cost of, if they do not want to go with the cost of basically of the enterprise version, then the organizations stick to open source database and they use it. So there are no issues in using open source database. But if you want additional features, if you want the premium features, you need to go for the enterprise or the premium version. So Mahesh asks, is there any place to publish the modified open source code, or how is it validated that the modified code is published openly? Is there any place to publish the modified open source code? Yes, the modified open source code, you can host it. Say for example, you have downloaded an open source code from open code source code software. You have modified it for your needs. Now you want to host it back. So you need to host it back, or you can host it back on the same hosting services. Say for example, you have downloaded from GitHub, you can put it again on GitHub, or you can use any other hosting service which I mentioned earlier, like SourceForge and etc. So there is no fixed website as such for publishing the modified source code, but it has to be open source, and it has to be, I mean, people should be easily, people should easily be able to download the source code and look at it. And your second part of the question is, how is it validated that the modified code is published openly? It is validated if multiple people around the world can basically download your source code and view it. So Mohan asks, can I get support for Java code which is used in Selenium? Well, Selenium is open source, I think. Yeah, so I think you get the source code for Selenium, and you can go through it. And for support, you can associate yourself with the groups for Selenium. There are several such groups for Selenium, and you can basically you can get help on that. Gaurav asks, for any software, how can we find it is permissive license or weakly permissive license? Whether this is explicitly called or we need to get into the details of licenses and then interpret it. Well, permissive license and weakly permissive license is not explicitly called. It is, it's a way of, I wanted you to make, understand what are the permissive license, in the sense what are the commercial friendly licenses. So permissive licenses are those which I have mentioned earlier, and basically permissive license is commercial friendly, and weakly permissive licenses has restrictions around it. So if you're if you're not able to modify an open source code and sell your own product, I would consider it to be a weakly permissive license, because it will ask you to host your modified source code, which we do not want in the commercial world. But we can have if the license says that there is no need to host your modified source code again, I would consider it to be a permissive license. It's commercial friendly. That is, you can sell it, and there would be no copyright violations. So Devdas asks, what are the risk factor if you use open source software? Open source software, the risk factors are besides whatever has been mentioned in the in my slides. The risk factor is basically associated with the licenses. You need to adhere to the particular license, and if it says that you need to adhere to these 10 points, you need to adhere to it, and you need to include copyright. Say for example, it says you need to include copyright notices. You need to include copyright notices in your modified source code. So another question is, if I developed an open source software, where I should upload that software? Are there any website or app stores? App stores or websites, basically open source, I've given a list of websites like github.com, open source, sourceforge.net, and freshmeat.net. So these are all, and there are others also. So you can use these websites for hosting your software, source code. So Vishnu asks, what will happen when someone will change code of OS software? So nothing will happen. So if you are modifying, you can modify the source code of Linux, but you need, so Linux is governed under GPL license, so you need to adhere to the GPL license. So Mahesh asks, is there any website or specific place where the modified? I think I've used, I have answered that question. So Sumit asks, does the freeware has the same copyright constraints as open source softwares? No, freeware does not have the same copyright constraints. Open source has these constraints because it wants to restrict them specifically, and I would say open source is a way of there are different licenses every time created every time, and basically the licenses are created so that people can have a way out from not selling their if they want to sell their own software and use also open source code. So open source is basically a way out, the licenses. So Ramdev asks, are open source softwares vulnerable to viruses or any such destructive behavior? How does one know the integrity of the open source software? Software has to be checked, and every software can be vulnerable to viruses and destructive behavior. The software has to be checked and analyzed and seen if it encourages or if destructive behavior, and if the integrity of the open source software is right or not. So we need to check this on a case-to-case basis. I think that was the last question. Anybody, any other questions? If you have, you can raise it.
Those are the only questions we have today. Thank you so much for answering them, Shashank.
Thank you.
I'm really thankful to you for conducting this session. It was an insightful presentation. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.